This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Today I've got a relatively short podcast for you because I only want to give you one short but important piece of advice. Here it is. You should bank at more than one bank. Now I know that goes against the conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom is that you'll get a better deal and your life will be simpler if you pick one bank and do all of your business with that one financial institution. There is some truth to that. A typical bank account these days can carry a monthly fee of $10 or $15, but if you have a loan and a mortgage and some investments and a credit card with that same bank, it's not hard to get them to waive fees or give you some other free perks like no-charge money orders or whatever. Lower fees may be a benefit of doing all of your banking at one bank or credit union. I also understand the concept of convenience. You don't want to be racing from bank to do your banking. Having everything in one place keeps life simple. Of course, you probably do all of your banking electronically, so I don't think you're actually driving from bank to bank, but I get the point. It's a hassle to be transferring funds from one bank to another to pay bills and do your other typical financial transactions. So if service charges are less if you only deal with one bank, and if it's more convenient to only deal with one bank, why am I suggesting that you should bank at more than one bank? Two reasons. First, fees. What? Didn't I just say that you can get a better deal if you only bank at one bank? That's true, but it's not a guarantee. Here's how it happens. You go to the bank and they convince you to switch everything to them and they offer you a great deal on fees. No fees, low fees, whatever. You take the deal and make the switch because you know you will be paying less than what you're paying now. It makes sense. But then, 6 months later, you get that form letter in the mail that says, "We are changing our service plans to serve you better. Some of our fees are going down, some are going up. Here's a list of changes. They all take effect next month." You read the letter and you look at the convenient chart they put with the letter of all the new service charges, but it's not easy to understand. The fee for a money order is going up, but you don't get more Interac transfers for free. Is that a good deal? You only know if you go back through your records and figure out how many money orders and Interac transfers you typically do, or will do in the future, so you can figure out how these changes will affect you. But you're busy and it's a hassle to change banks, so you just leave everything as it is. They've got you. They gave you a good deal when you signed up, but then they changed the deal, assuming you wouldn't notice, and now you are paying higher fees. So how does banking at two banks change this? Well, if you have two different accounts, you can compare the costs at one bank to the other bank because you bank at two places. And, more importantly, if one bank decides to charge you more for money orders or Interac fees, it's easy to get those services from the other bank because you already have two bank accounts open and up and running. It's no hassle to switch because you have already switched. That's why having two different banks can save you money. Let me tell you a story. It's a true story. It happened to me. I've been with the same bank for many years. Decades, actually. I have a credit card from the bank, and that card gives me cash back on every purchase. I don't need reward points or airline points, so cash is good for me. I've used the card for years. But then, a few months ago, the bank sent me a replacement credit card. I didn't ask for it. My card was not expired, but they sent me a replacement card. Why? Well, according to the letter, the bank has decided to discontinue the cashback card that I have and replace it with another card to serve me better. Yeah, right. When I read the fine print, the new card is not as good as the old card. I don't get as much cash back. So what did I do? I did some research and found a card at a different financial institution that is even better than my old card and certainly better than my new replacement card. Why didn't I find this new card a few months ago? Because when you've been with the same bank for decades, you don't think to look around and compare your options. It was only because my bank decided to change my card that I got around to looking for other options. That's the problem with only banking with one bank. You get lazy. You assume the bank is giving you the best deal, even when they aren't. And when I say best deal, I'm not just talking about fees. You may also not be getting the best service. For example, what are your branch hours? Some banks are open late, some aren't. If being able to go to the bank later in the day or on the weekend is important to you, a different bank may serve you better. If you only bank with one bank, you don't know what other banks offer. What about services? I know of 2 big Canadian banks that offer free credit reports with credit scores. You log into your online banking and click a button, and there's your credit report. No cost, no hassle, and it doesn't show up as a hit on your credit report. Did you know that free credit scores was even something a bank can give you? If you only bank at one bank, and your bank doesn't offer that service, you may not realize it, but if you have more than one bank, you can pick and choose which services are right for you. So, problem number 1 with only banking with one bank, you may be paying more in fees, or you may not be getting the service that you could be getting at another bank. But services and fees are not the reason I recommend you bank at more than one bank. They are important, but here's an even more important factor. With one bank, the bank controls you. You lose control. I talked about this in my book, Straight Talk on Your Money. And on page 63, I told the story of Rob. And I quote, "Rob is self-employed. Due to an error made by his accountant, his taxes didn't get paid on time and the government froze his bank account. He had no access to cash and no bank account to use to deposit money from his clients." End quote. Rob's story is not unique. I've heard it many times with slightly different details, but the details aren't important. If you have only one bank account and your bank account gets frozen or seized or has some other problem, you have no access to money. We live in a cashless society. You probably spend a lot more each month on your debit card or your credit card than you spend with actual cash. So having access to your money in your bank account is very important. So what's the solution for Rob? Well, he should hire a better accountant to make sure his taxes are paid on time. Also, he should stop blaming his accountant. If you want to be self-employed, it's your responsibility to understand your obligations, including tax payments, and get them paid on time. And of course, it would be really helpful if he had a second bank account. Stuff happens. Perhaps your taxes don't get paid. Perhaps it's your fault, or perhaps the government makes a mistake. I know, hard to believe, but it could happen. Let me tell you another story. It's a true story. It happened to me. A few weeks ago, I got a letter from Canada Revenue Agency saying that my company owed a lot of taxes. I looked at the amount and I thought, that's strange. I sent them that amount of money back in March and I've been paying installments every month since then. How is this possible? So I called CRA and I got a really friendly guy on the phone. I know, I got a guy from CRA on the phone, but stay with me. This is a true story. He looked into my account and he said, "Oh, I see what happened. We applied your payment for last year to your installments for next year. That's why we think you owe us money. Our mistake. We'll fix it. Don't worry about it." Okay, all's well that ends well, but what if I hadn't read the letter? What if it got lost in the mail? What if I ignored it? What if my phone call was not answered by the friendly guy at CRA? If it went on long enough, my bank account could have been frozen. That's a problem. I'm giving you the example of a CRA problem, but what if there was a problem with your credit card payment or some other payment? What if the hydro company makes a mistake and takes out too much money on your monthly pre-authorized payment? Of course, they'll fix it and refund your money, but what if it takes a week? What do you do for cash in the meantime? What if your identity gets stolen or your password is compromised? Or what if the bank has a computer malfunction and you can't access your account? It happens. Or what if you're a really rich guy and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars on deposit at the bank? CDIC insurance only covers the first 100,000 you have on deposit, so if you have an account at one of the lesser banks, you may be at risk. I could go on and on, but you get the idea. Stuff happens. There are dozens of possible reasons why you may not be able to access your bank account, and that's why my advice is to have more than one bank account. Here's the key. If you're going to open a second bank account, it should be at a different bank, and it should not be at a bank where you have any debt. The first part is obvious. If the bank's computers go down, having two accounts at the same bank doesn't do you much good. The more important part is to have an account at a bank where you don't have any debt. If you have a credit card at ABC Bank and you bank at ABC Bank and you forget to make your payment, it's easy for ABC Credit Card to go into your ABC Bank account and take the money. And yes, I realize you should not be missing your payments, but sometimes stuff happens, and if it does, you don't want the hassle of someone taking money out of your bank account without your knowledge. So, here's my advice. If simplicity is the most important factor in your financial life, and if you don't have any debt that you're worried about getting behind on, and if you aren't worried about your bank systems crashing, go ahead and do all of your banking at one bank. This is often the best answer for people with relatively simple financial situations, like students or seniors. If you would like to have backup access to a small credit card or cash in the bank in the event that there is a problem with your bank, open a second account at an online bank, one with no fees, and leave a few bucks in that account for emergencies. Finally, if you have debt or are self-employed or at a higher risk for having issues with your bank, bank with two banks. Have one bank as your main account and main credit card, and that can be the bank where you owe money. So if you have a credit card and a mortgage with ABC Bank, it makes sense to bank with ABC Bank. But for greater protection, only leave money in ABC Bank account to cover this month's bills. All other money, including your savings accounts, should be at another unrelated bank where you don't owe any money. That should be an account where you don't pay your debts from so that your creditors don't know that account exists. But isn't that sneaky? Isn't that illegal? No. It's your money and you can do what you want with it. It's never a bad idea to protect yourself, both from the bank and from stuff that can happen. That's our show for today. As always, a full transcript of this show can be found at hoyes.com. That's HOYES.com. Next week, I've got a special show for you. It's our last show of the season, and I'm going to discuss some of the personal finance lessons we can learn if the car company Tesla goes bankrupt. So, until next week, thanks for listening. I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.